Alrighty, in this lesson we are going to finally talk about StackViews. Alright, now StackViews are pretty great. They are containers that you can drop UI elements into, and it does a lot of the hard work of adding auto layout constraints for us. Now first, let me give you a common problem. Let's take a look at our login screen here. And what if your boss tells you that you now need to also add first and last name fields, and they need to go in between the username and password? Well, okay, fine. What are we going to do? We're going to have to break all of the constraints that we've already added, add in those text fields, re-add all of those constraints, and it can be a bit of a pain. All right, but with StackViews, this becomes very easy. So the best way to start to understand it is to just start playing with one. So let's get to it. I'm going to add in here another view controller and just drop that right there. So StackViews are used to hold a number of elements in a horizontal or vertical layout. So let's get some elements in here. Going to open up our object library. And I'm just going to drag in 3 buttons. Going to hold Option and drop it, and then the object library will stay open for us. And I'm going to grab it or drag in 2 more. Okay. All right, so say our requirement is that these 3 buttons are down here at the bottom and that they expand to fill up the entire bottom part, okay? I'm gonna give each of these a different color just to differentiate them. Let's see here, background. I'm gonna give this one red, this one green, and this one blue. All right, so we got our 3 buttons here. Now we can do this with auto layout, just regular vanilla auto layout. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to take our left one and we are going to pin it 20 from the left and 20 from the bottom. And I'm going to say add 2 constraints. Then I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to constrain it 20 from the bottom, add that constraint. I'm going to take this one over here and I'm going to constrain it 20 from the right, 20 from the bottom, add those 2 constraints. Then I'm going to take this left one and I'm going to constrain it 0 from the right, 0 from the green one, add that constraint. Then we're going to take the blue one and constrain it 0 from the green one as well. Add that constraint. Now I'm going to take all 3 and set this to equal widths and add those constraints. And now you can see that we have our 3 buttons that are filling up this space. If I change the device width, those are going to still stay filling up the entire width. So there we go. So that wasn't too terrible. It took a little bit of time and a whole bunch of constraints though. All right, so now let's see how that works with a stack view, okay? I'm gonna leave this one and I'm going to open this back up and holding Option, I'm going to drag in 3 more buttons. So 1, 2, and 3. All right, so we got our 3 buttons here. And if I select all 3, then down here we have this button here. This is our embed in button. If I click on it, right here we have a stack view option, okay? So click that and boom, now your 3 buttons are in a stack view. And all you have to do is constrain the stack view as a whole. So I'm going to set this 20 from the left, 20 from the bottom, and let's go like let's go 60 from the bottom buttons, and then 20 from the right. And with that, this is fully constrained. Let's go ahead and change the color on each of these buttons. I'm going to change the left one to red again. So background is red. The middle one is green. And the right one is blue. Now you may be looking at this saying, hey Johnny, that does not look like the one down there. Well, we just have to do just a couple of things here. So first off, let's take a look at our properties. we have spacing, so that obviously shouldn't be 66. Let's go with 0 since that's the way that the bottom one is. And then we need to just change distribution to fill equally. And there we have it. Boom, pretty quick. Now, as quick as that was, where StackViews really shine is when you need to make some changes to the layout, all right? So I talked about that problem earlier on, like what if we had to add in 2 text fields in between our existing ones? Well, same thing here. Let's say that we need to add a 4th button, okay? So I'm going to show you how you would do that here with the just vanilla auto layout. We could come over here and remove our trailing constraint, add in a new button here, constrain this to the right by 20, bottom 20, and left is 0. I'm going to add those 3 constraints, and then I need to select this one and any of these other ones, and also set equal widths, add 1 constraint. And that is done. Okay, so I'm going to change the background color to say gray. And there we have it. All right, now watch how simple that is with our stack view. So I got our button here, and I'm going to drag it into the stack view, and boom, we're done. That's it. Change the background color to gray, and we are good. Now say that you decide that this gray one should actually be at the front. I'm not even going to show you how that would be down here. We would have to break all of these constraints. But here, all we have to do is you can try to drag it here in the storyboard. Probably easier is over here in the document outline. You just select this one and drag it up to the top, and everything reorders itself. You want the blue one in the middle, just grab it and reorder it. Super, super easy. All right, so let me close this bottom pane here, zoom in a little bit. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stack view properties. One thing is sometimes it's kind of hard to, you can't really grab the stack view from the storyboard very easily from the interface builder. So I'd recommend always having your document outline open and just selecting stack views directly from here. All right, so properties. Right up here, these are the stack view specific properties. We have our axis, which you can switch between horizontal and vertical, and that will still continue to work fine. It will just place the buttons in a vertical stack view. Okay, so just like that. So we went from a horizontal to a vertical stack view. I'm going to change it back. Then we have alignment, which is currently set to fill. Okay, so this is going to be different between the horizontal and the vertical. So if you see with horizontal, we have fill, top, center, and bottom. If we do vertical, we have leading, center, trailing. Okay, so let's take a look at the horizontal first. Now you can't really tell right now any difference if I change these, and that's because the stack view is currently the same size, the same height as a button. But if I were to change the height of the stack view, let's go ahead and give this a height of, say, height is equal to 60. I'm just going to give it a constraint of 60. And then if we select our stack view, the alignment is fill, but you can see the difference if I change it to top or center or bottom. Okay. Fill will take the buttons and it will expand the height of each individual button to fill up the space of the stack view. Whereas these other ones, they keep the height of the buttons and just change the alignment. All right. Then we have distribution. All right, these can be a little bit complicated for beginners with stack views, so I'm going to open up the documentation. All right, and here we have the 5 different types of distribution. The first case is fill. Let me go ahead and shrink this over, see if we can see both of them at once. Okay, so we have fill. This is a layout where the stack view resizes its arranged views so that they fill the available space along the stack view's axis. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to say fill, And that actually doesn't look like what we just read. But there's one caveat here, and it's that if the arranged views do not fill the stack view, it stretches the views according to their hugging priority. If there's any ambiguity, the stack view resizes the arranged views based on their index in the arranged subviews array. Okay, so this arranged subviews, don't worry too much about it, but it's an array, it's a property that represents each of these views inside of the stack view. All right, also, don't worry too much about this hugging priority. We're gonna go over this when we get to some more advanced auto layout stuff later on in the course. All right, so right now I'm just gonna tell you the unsatisfactory answer of don't worry too much about fill. And honestly, you probably won't use it that much anyways. Then we're going to look at fill equally, which we've already looked at. And this one is pretty self-explanatory. All it says is that it is a layout where the stack view resizes its arranged views so that they fill the available space along the stack view's axis. All right, so pretty straightforward. All right, then we have fill proportionally. Okay, and you'll see that that didn't change anything, and that's because all 4 of these buttons are the same size. They have the same content. So fill proportionally says that a layout where the stack view resizes its arranged views so that they fill the available space along the stack view's axis, and that views are resized proportionally based on their intrinsic content size. Okay, so if we make this title A, then you can see that it still fills up the entire width, but the space allocated to this A button is smaller than the space allocated to the other buttons because the content is much smaller. So now let's make this one really long. Now you can see that these two, which are the same size, the green and the gray button, they have the same size, same space allocated to them because they're the same content size. The A is the smallest space allocated because it has the smallest amount of content, and the blue has the largest amount of space because it has the most content. All right, going to do a Command Z, get back to where we were, and then I'm going to select our stack view, and we are going to go to equal spacing, okay? So with equal spacing, this is a layout where the stack view positions its arranged views so that they fill the available space along the stack view's axis. When the arranged views do not fill the stack view, it pads the spacing between the views evenly. Okay, so basically this is just going to allocate enough space to hold the view, and then it's going to put an equal amount of space between each of the elements. And then finally we have equal centering. Okay, and again, you didn't see anything happen here because these all have the same center points. But if I change this to a long one, and maybe this one to a really short one, so what this one does is it tries to make the space between the center of each element the same. Okay, so if I were to draw a center line between each of these, then the space between those center lines should be equal. All right, so those are the properties of the horizontal stack view. Let's go ahead and make this vertical. And looks like we got some problems here. I'm going to Command Z until we get back to where we were before. All right, so we have our 4 buttons. We are in horizontal. The alignment, I'm going to change to fill, and the distribution is going to be fill equally. And then let's make that vertical. All right, there we go. All right, so like I said, with a vertical stack view, the distribution, or I'm sorry, the alignment is a little bit different. Right now it's fill, which means that these buttons are going to be expanded to fill the width of the stack view, okay? But if we change that alignment to leading, then you'll see that the buttons are all aligned to the left, center will be in the center, and trailing will be off to the right, of course. All right, so something to note here is that when we have one of these other ones, let's do center, I can give this additional constraints. I can set this to have a width of, say, 100, all right, and that will be fine. However, if I then change it to fill for the alignment, we're going to get some constraint errors because now it's trying to, now we have conflicting constraints. We're saying that this button should fill the stack view, but also only be 100 wide. Can't do both, okay? So I would need to remove, let me grab that button. I would need to remove that width constraint, and then everything would be okay again. All right, so let's take a look at the spacing here. Basically, super simple. This is just the spacing between the elements. Oh, and you know why this isn't expanding? Because I forgot that we put a height constraint on our stack view when we were taking a look at the alignment for the horizontal. So I'm going to remove this constraint. I just clicked on the stack view, go to the size inspector, and remove this height equals constraint. There we go. That looks better. All right, so let me get the stack view again, back to our attributes inspector. And yeah, you can just change the spacing on here, and that makes it real easy to adjust. All right, so those are the properties of our stack views. Now, another really cool thing with stack views is that you can nest stack views, okay? So let's take a look at, let's think about a layout, say where it's a contact form or something, where you have a first and last name and a text field for each of those, okay? So the way that we could do this with stack views is, let's go ahead and pull in some elements here. Let's go ahead and drop in our labels. I'm gonna hold Option so that that stays open. And then 2 text fields right here. And let's say here, let's change this to first name and this one last name. Okay. And what we can do is we can put these two in a stack view. Okay. So I'm going to click on embed and say stack view. So now those are in a stack view. And what we can do is then take these two also and put those in a stack view. And this is going to be in another horizontal stack view. And then we can take those 2 stack views. So I'm going to select both of them over here in my document outline. And we can embed those in a stack view. And there we go. So now with this stack view, what I can do is I can pin it, say 20 from the left, 20 from the right, and 20 from the top. And there we go. So now whenever I change device sizes, that is still going to look the same. Perfect. All right, now what happens? Let's say we want to also have an image view over here, maybe where they can load a picture of themselves or a logo or something like that. Well, what we can do is we take this nested stack view. I'm going to go ahead and remove its constraints for now. I'm going to say clear constraints on this view, and that's going to pop out like that. And then let's bring in another. Let's bring in a UI image view. And I'm just going to resize that here. And let's give that an image. I'm just going to use the logo that we were using in the last lesson. And I'm going to grab that image and our parent stack view. And I'm going to put those in a stack view. And that's going to be a horizontal stack view. All right, and then what's going to happen is when you have images in stack views, they're going to automatically pop out to their full size. All right, so what you're going to have to do is provide some constraints. We might have to, let's try pinning this 20 and 20 and 20 like we had it again, see what that does. And you can see that it's not quite working out how we would expect. So we're going to have to constrain the image here. So let's go ahead and give it a width and height of, say, maybe 75 by 75. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Let's select our parent stack view of them all and change the spacing to, say, 10. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. Let's check out what that looks like on other device sizes. Let's go small. That looks okay. Let's go big. That looks okay too. All right, so that is how you can quickly and easily add stack views and do everything that you need to. In fact, let's go ahead and check one more thing here. Let's add some more elements here. First name, last name. Let's open this back up and put in a UI text field. Just going to drop that in right there. And then I'm going to drop in another label. And I'm going to put that here, okay? So this dropped these into a vertical stack view. But what I can do then is I can select these two and embed this in a stack view. And it's going to default to a vertical stack view. And that's because in the position that they are, that would make sense. But we can change that to be a horizontal. And then we can reorder the elements. I can try to do that here. And you can see these little blue guidelines help me. And that is reordered. And here I can put, I don't know, something like phone. Perfect. So now we just added easily in another element. And pretty much everything else has stayed nice and constrained. It's still going to look good on our different devices. And yeah, I mean, stack views are pretty amazing. Now, I will caution you, don't go too crazy using your stack views. Sometimes when beginners find stack views, they fall in love with them, and you know, rightly so, they're pretty amazing, but they will put everything in a stack view. Like even individual elements will go into a stack view, and they'll have huge nested stack views, all right? So just take caution that you can go overboard with stack views. So yeah, just use them sparingly and when it actually makes sense to use them. And as we go through the course, we'll be using them more and more, and you'll be able to kind of get a feel for when you should and shouldn't and how deep you should go. But my challenge for you is to redo our constraints on our login controller with stack views, okay? So go ahead and try putting these into a stack view and constraining it and making it look good, all right? So that is your challenge. Give it a shot, and if you have any troubles, give us a shout out in the Q&A, all right? So I hope you enjoyed this section on auto layout and images and stack views. And yeah, we'll be using this stuff throughout the rest of the entire course, okay? So I'll see you in the next one.